Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, bald mosquitoes and bow-legged ants. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Brain Cramp Theater. No, I'm kidding. This is The Other Side of Ropes. I'm your humble host, Shaka, aka Black Magic. And, it was a very interesting weekend. Now, I'm not talking about Super Bowl. No, quite the opposite. Although this did happen on Super Bowl Sunday, I've been looking at some of the threads on Facebook, and a very interesting thing had popped up. They're talking about something I haven't really quite brought up in a while: backyard wrestling. And the weird thing is, one of the threads got very, very heated, up to the point where, when I last saw, the thread was about over 250 comments. I mean, it involved people who were involved in several states in backyard wrestling. Some of them actually went into legit locker rooms and actually went back into backyard. And the argument was about the credibility, of course, going back into backyard wrestling. And basically the whole argument was killing that whole sacred cow of going from one to the other and killing loyalty. And it also involved an actual promoter. I mean, a legit promoter. And believe it or not, a legit wrestler. And two of which I know. Well, a couple of workers. One's a little bit younger, but the guy I'm talking about, I'm not going to mention any names, but it got really heated. You know it's really bad when F-bombs and all kinds of stuff get exchanged over the course of a couple hours. There was even a bow out going into the darn Super Bowl, and that came from somebody just backing up one of the other guys because it was their friends. Well, come on now, guys. Now, looking at this, I'm actually looking at the point of view. I'm looking at the perspective of both sides. Well, I don't have a choice. Well, I do. I could have just went on ahead and ignored it. Now, did I get involved in a thread? No. I just actually looked at this because even the vets were getting ripped to shreds here because you got a whole crap load of guys who actually did the backyard thing. And, of course, you have validated opinions going up against backed up fact. Maybe the facts weren't exactly backed up as they should have, as well as they should have been, but, like I said, it was pretty much a whole game of semantics. Like, on one hand, you had the backyarders and they're saying they wanted to do it because they thought it was fun. They want to avoid the whole nonsense and BS of the politics involved in indie wrestling. Well, nature of the beast. Even throwing in the whole thing about, well, at least they're going to college. Well, guess what? I can tell you what Dom DiNucci told two of his top students, who were Mick Foley and Troy Martin. Don't know who Troy Martin is? Shane Douglas. And Dom told his guys, look, go to college first. Get a decent job. Why? Because there's no guarantee that you're going to make a lot of money in this business. He's trying to tell these guys, listen, there is no guarantee that you break in is going to be lucrative for you guys. That's a given. So everybody's making a whole stink about how much you're going to make and how much you're going to contribute and how much you're going to give to the business. Listen, going in, you should know you're getting proper. The whole thing was you're being properly trained or against being improperly trained or not trained at all, meaning you don't know the safety features. Because you're talking about guys who are hormonal because they're early 20s or whatever. And let's face it, guys, we're at that age where we're thinking we're we're invincible. We're bulletproof. Listen, I'm living proof. You're not. Okay? Me being the type of guy that I am, I joined the Army at the age of 17, got my tooth chipped with an exposed nerve. That sucker hurt for a good half a day, and I still had to take my PT test. And the choice I was given by my drill sergeant was, Reddick, you got one or two choices. Take the PT test now or graduation day next Thursday. And I told him, I'll take it now, drill sergeant. I passed because the following week I had to go in a senior class in high school. That's just me. Either you suck it up or you don't. Now these guys talking about that whole thing about avoiding the whole BS of politics, dude, that's the way of the world. You cannot avoid that sort of thing. That just tells me you're afraid and reluctant to take the accountability as to what happens after the fact. Now, granted, you go to a show and you get wavered because the promoter is not going to be liable for anything that happens once you get in the ring because you did it on your own volition and you did it voluntarily. Call it cowardice, but at the same time, let's face it, promoter does have a point. Nobody told you to go in the ring at gunpoint or at knife point, so there you go. Especially considering the fact that you were trained. If you were trained correctly, you were trained properly, there should be no doubt in your mind as to what it is you can do once you get in there. Period. You know what I mean? Now, if you want to turn around and do all this other kind of crazy stuff that you saw on TV, bear in mind, these cats have been doing this for a little bit longer. They had the chance, they had the opportunity and luxury of training a little bit farther to be able to do what they're doing. You, not so much. You just figured, okay, I saw that looks cool, I'm going to try it, and I'll just throw caution to the wind, and hey, if I can get up and brush it off, listen, I'm lucky I don't have any extra hardware on my neck after taking a daggone header right on the top of this puppy 2 weeks before my first match, taking a doggone head since his takeover. And I was 26. Like I said, I was fortunate. People have taken the similar and have gone through worse. Some of them are not even walking anymore. I'm just saying, you're not bulletproof. And the older you get, you're going to see just how fallible you are. But at the same time, somebody actually turned around and said, one of my friends said, hey, look, leave him alone. To a degree, I agree. Because he said their argument there was they got to start from somewhere. But come on. In another life, if the NWA, the territories existed, this would have been squashed. Nowadays, you can get away with it because a lot of guys who actually gotten into the indies have actually turned around and had a background in backyard. But they had enough sense to convert and learn. There is a difference. Now, the kicker to that, ladies and gentlemen, is this. Sure, we all have to start somewhere. But at the same time, the whole argument is starting the right way. You know, you get a fair shake. We all got a lot to learn, even no matter how far you get or when you get into this whole thing. Really. Because, I mean, you can turn around and start off the whole backyard, and chances are you kind of got a gist of what's going on because of what you saw on TV, and you figure it out. Believe it or not, I had a cousin, his friends, and even a couple of mine. We used to do this whole thing. We didn't have backyards where I grew up. We had driveways made out of concrete. Even we had enough sense not to sit up there and try to pile drive somebody. Now, craziest thing I saw was in junior high in a hallway. I'm in my locker. Somebody got DDT. This tells me from my training, somebody had enough sense to know when to roll. Other than that, high school, somebody got the doggone rear naked choke, the sleeper, and they had to go to the nurse's office because the guy that put him on him didn't know how to wake him up. I haven't been put in one myself. I can relate. Those things actually do work, and that was the no-gi technique of judo. Or if you want to call it Brazilian jiu-jitsu, fine, so be it. It's a deviation of the same thing. Go figure, or flip side of the same coin. But still, just because you saw it, and this is what I learned, just because you saw it on TV don't mean it's okay to repeat. They even tell you in the disclaimer, don't try it at home. That's what they're trying to say. Why? Sure, you can turn around and try it. You can say, oh, it's not going to happen to me. But once again, those male hormones kick in. Oh, it's not going to happen. But at the same time, I can also see what happens when they turn around and say, leave them alone. You know why? Something breaks, you know you made it. And at the same time, if you're still 25, still doing this nonsense just for the fun of it, instead of doing it in another, doing it legit by a promoter, regardless of how much you're getting or not getting, listen, the brothers, the guys, the boys have always been screwed, even when the take home by the territories was well over 7 to 8 figures a year. Just saying. But they made do because they love what they did. The passion, okay, that's fine. Your heart's in the right place. But you got to have more than just heart. I'm just saying. Now, on the flip side of the whole thing, if you're doing this at 25 and the interest didn't peter out by now, then you're a damn fool. Now, me, like I said, it's no mystery. I broke in at 26, but even well, it's backyard. You're only going to go but so far. It's your backyard, which means it's your neighborhood. I know a lot of people that's been in the Indies and haven't really gone no further than maybe 3 states. Just saying. Now, that's their problem, but I'm not knocking them. I'm not even really knocking the backyarders. Like I said, the heart's in the right place. But, guys, you got to know to wake up at some point, really. Remember, you're not bulletproof, you're not invincible. I mean, have some kind of sense. Now, if you want to go ahead and get some training and go back in the backyard, that's on you. But at the same time, there's a whole thing of, you got to remember, the old heads that are telling you this stuff, it's a slap in the face to the people who've actually busted their chops time and time again on the road and actually did get paid for it. Now, if you don't want to think of it that way, that means you got to have some sense of history. That's what the argument about that whole thing is. Even if you had no aspirations to be Ric Flair, still, there's no respect to him if you're going to just stay in that particular spot. I think that's part of the argument. But on that note, I'm going to let it go myself at this particular point. And let's see. Top Rope Radio. We still got to grab a certain controversial figure by the name of PT Player. Or dare I say, well, the man's changed his name so many goddamn times, even I can't even keep track. And he's one of my distant relatives, in the matter of speaking. I'm talking about Petey Staniforth. You'll hear that name again in a few minutes. On that note, shout outs to my people. White Trash, Johnny Logan in Vegas, and in Carson City, we got Mr. Graves, Damian, one each. Going down over to NWA Wild West, I'm talking about Sick Nick, or Nick the Sickness. Over in Vintage Pro for Oklahoma, Miss Dawn Holly. Down in the southeastern sector, down in Florida, I'm talking about the Chocolate Chop himself. That's right, Marcus Gibb and Bobby Sanford. Over in the Midwest, Atlas J. Horn, and of course Kamala Jr. and Moondog Fifi. Over in the Tennessee area, you got Lady Amazon and Bob Geary. Somewhere in Georgia, we got my boy Scotty Bullwinkle, and of course, wherever you may be, Blade Walker and Ghetto Blaster. Over going towards the Eastern Shore and all points in between, Delaware and such. I'm talking about the alumni, or fellow alumni, of Maximum Championship Wrestling. Of course, I refer to Black Ice, Body Snatcher, collectively known as D-Line, Massive Mike, the master of the 2 count. I'm talking about Chuck the Ref, Chris Nightmare, Jimmy Dream, Adam Ugly, Trina Stratus, not Trish, Trina Stratus, E.L. Stanley, The Asian Sensation, and the rest of the people representing Power Pro Wrestling. Heard they had a good show this past weekend. Big ups, guys. Going further up, you got another good show. I couldn't be there this past weekend, but I was there in spirit for Risky Business Inc. and the rest of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Alliance. Also in Jersey, Doc Diamond's Devastation University. Also representing Devastation U. 215 and the 212 Empire. You guys know who you are. And the rest of these sort of cast of characters in that area. Coming up in Tamaqua, yeah. Elite Generation Wrestling coming up this weekend. I'll be there. Will I be defending the internet title for PTW? Who knows? And of course, going across the pond to my people over in the UK. And of course, Belgium, Holland, and of course, Deutschland. And in some parts in Finland and other parts down south, like South Africa and Austria. You guys know who you all are. I can't mention any names now because of the time constraints. And if I try to do it too darn fast, you guys won't be able to catch it anyway. And I'm not even going to give it to myself because I'm getting over a nice little nasty sinus infection. Guys, you know what the heck I'm saying. But on that note, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to finish drinking the rest of my Vietnamese coffee. Yes, Vietnam has coffee too. Shut up. And on that note, yes, I'm going to leave y'all with the virus and this incense. As always, this is Shaka. This has been The Other Side of Ropes, and it's been real. See you on the flip side, people.